Ok, Uvas e Personalidades hoje com uma personagem diferente. Eu digo personagem porque lá está o autor do livro Anticipation Widraw, Cary Grant, tá? Hoje vamos falar em inglês, porque ele é novo, New Zealander, tá? Mas a edição vai se responsabilizar por pôr as legendas e vamos tentar fazer em inglês. Cary Grant, welcome to my program, Grapes and Personalities, okay? Tell me,
thank you for having me, appreciate it.
New Zealander, tell me, what was the idea, the basic idea of writing Anticipated Widraw?
Well, it goes right back to my early days as a young boy. As far back as I can remember, I've had an interest in World War II aviation history. Any books that were written, first-hand accounts by the people who fought as biographies, their perspectives of what they went through in the battles, I consumed and read. Pretty much anybody who's anybody in those conflicts, I've read their biographies about. So that's gone through my adulthood. It's not just something I did as a child, it's just an interest I've had throughout. Somewhere in the process, it transpired from an interest to an idea of writing a novel that incorporated these people's accounts into fictitious people's lives, but very much from the perspective of what I've learned and heard from these first-hand accounts. Because one thing about the histories of war, if you pick up a history book that's just the facts, the hard cold facts about, it doesn't have much of the personality of the people, the emotions, some of the behind the scene things that happened that they've recorded that you don't see in the histories are there in the biographies, and that's very much the perspective of this book, of this series of novels, is to show the personal aspects of war and what happened in those different environments through the course of the history. So it's very much about the history of the war, keep to the authenticity of the history, but where the people, personalities and struggles, their dramas, their achievements, their backwards and forwarding are shown in a human way, emulating what actually happened in these different accounts I've read.
So did you try to humanize the story of the book?
Yes, humanise. So somewhere probably a good 30 years ago, the idea started growing in my head. I was in a line of work where it was very menial labour, agricultural work, driving a tractor. So I had a lot of time to think, so started getting these ideas, writing them down on paper, but it stayed very much as an idea that wasn't acted upon until it would have been maybe 15 years ago, 15 to 10 years ago that I started writing a bit. And then I went through a period, well I finished the book 5 years ago, but the last 5 years prior to that, probably the year prior to it being finished, I just started very comprehensively writing. Yeah, and it all just flowed. It all just came. I was just amazed at how some of the characters' lives connected, interwove, and became part of the story's fabric. It took a life of its own. The book, like there's some chapters. It's about one of the main characters. It had the bones of the story, what I call the bones. It had the idea of what they were doing and where it fitted in with the overall objective of where the storyline's going. But there were parts about it that was empty and lifeless. It had no character. It didn't have the character of interaction with others. So I created other characters to interact with them, and some of those characters are now becoming main features in the storyline as well, and fit intricately into interactions that are going to happen with other characters from that have their own storyline going through.
Something that is different is that a New Zealander writing a book about the Second World War with the perspective, more humanized perspective, and then they released the book. How was the feedback from Amazon when you edited the book?
Initially went to a publishing house, 4 different publishing houses to publish it, and this was 5 years ago. the feedback from all of them was very good. One in particular
Four
was,
editors.
yeah, four different publishers said to publish it, but the problem with an unpublished author, someone who's had work published beforehand, which I am, you have to put up the costs for publishing. None of them would say, "Oh, we'll take on board the costs." So there's a cost involved in it. And with one publisher who I decided was giving me the best deal, and they're an English-based publishing house, I started paying money towards the cost of doing that. But it just became prohibitive with the cost of living. So I only got halfway through that process. So after that, through that 5-year process, I came slowly to the realisation that Amazon was going to be my best option, and they make it easy. With publishing in paperback, if you've got a good story, you're only paying for the publishing cost of each copy that's being sold by them, whereas with the others, you're paying up front.
Yeah, it's easier.
It's easier.
No, I think only on the view of the author of the book. How does a New Zealander writes a book about the Second World War from a German perspective? Tell me, tell me the mixture, the recipe of that book. How that baby was born from a New Zealander, yes, based on the war documents, and from a German perspective. What is the recipe for that baby?
I suppose it's part of my psyche. I mean, though the Germans weren't the underdogs till the very end of the conflict, I've always sided with the underdog. In a sporting fixture, I'll go for the team that's less likely to win. It's just part of my psyche. I back the losers. I like to believe, and I like to believe for better. So that's part of it's that. Part of it is the Germans had a lot to admire about how they went about doing war. I mean, there's a lot of unsavoury stuff about places they went with the Holocaust and stuff, but their technology was leaps and bounds above the rest. You look at their machine gun Spandau, it was so good that the Americans copied it, and a very close replica of it came out with, I think it's called the M50 in the Vietnam conflict. It may have had a slightly different look to it, and the suppressors on it were a bit more efficient, to the point though where the suppressors were removed so it could fire more rounds, which is one of the things that Spandau had. But we had all these elements of their the 88mm anti-aircraft gun.
The space shuttle.
Yeah, the special. You drop it pointed at a tank, and it will destroy any tank that came against it at the time. You got the V1, V2, and V3, which we still don't really, we don't know what the V3 and V4 were.
V3 and V4 went to the moon, probably. The V3 and V4 went to the moon, but that's another story.
That's another story. But the V2, a rocket that went into the stratosphere and then came vertically down. There's no defence against it. Blew out a whole block of houses. If they had been developed earlier in the war, England, it would be another story, and it would have probably been written by the English perspective. And it does go very contrary to the New Zealand psyche, because we did fight for the English in the English war. We are a country that was settled by the English about 100 years prior to that conflict. Very much the attitude of the time was they were the homeland. Wherever they went in battle, we joined them and supported them. But I heard good things from those who came back from the conflict about how the Germans carried themselves in battle, and there was a respect between Germans and especially Kiwis. I saw it in the accounts I read. I can't quote a name here, but a German paratrooper wrote his account of being paratrooper, and he said some pretty, and he was typically German. German people can be pretty, we know what we're about, and we don't give concessions where it's not due to other people. But he gave concessions for the Kiwis. That whenever they came across us in battle, they always knew they had a good opponent, and things were going to be tough.
So you were telling me that they would say and confirm that the Geneva Convention existed
Yes.
behind the lines.
Yeah. So yeah. Yeah. It did.
Now it's that don't along the conversation because they had a lot of time. There was a little detail that I was talking to him that I didn't know that on the famous battle of the Graf Spear, River Plate, there was a New Zealander ship that was the
It was the Ajax, the light cruiser Ajax. It was on lease from England, so it was an English ship which New Zealand paid money to crew, but all the crew on it were New Zealanders. Yes. And what transpired in the battle was the admiral on board the Graf Spey, which I can't. Yeah, I'm not sure about it. I'm not sure. It might have been Spear, but I'm not sure. I might get my name. But he assumed that because these British ships came chasing towards him, and he knew they weren't battleships because they were smaller in size than a battleship, he assumed they were destroyers trying to come closer to release their torpedoes, which is how destroyers acted. So he let them get closer. But the reason these light cruisers were charging in close was so they could come in range with their guns, which had a shorter range to this battleship. So he got quite a bit of he took quite a bit of damage upon his ship in this battle, but the Achilles, which was the other ship, which was an Australian crewed ship, had very severe damage done to it. It caught fire and they nearly lost it. They lost a lot of crew, whereas the British ship came off a lot lighter from the account. So yeah, we have a history there. Unfortunately, the Germans were fooled by the British radio communications at the time. They thought there was a lot of ships when after they'd gone back into port, a neutral port, to take repairs. The admiral decided when they came out of port to scuttle his ship. He didn't want to be responsible for the senseless death of his crew, so he made that decision. But it turned out he had been beguiled by the British Secret Service people with their false radio communications to phantom ships that didn't exist out there. So yeah.
Also, that became an history. Yeah, it became a rather strategic material for the contemporary battle, right? Also, they have the same similar tactics to fool the enemy.
Yeah, very much so. So I don't know if it was the origins of it. I don't know of any other accounts prior to it in my knowledge of military history. Maybe some of it may have happened in World War One with battles back then. I don't know how effective the radio communications were back then. Radio communication.
Korea and Japan did use it with the Sioux Indians, right? With the Sioux Indians, the Americans took advantage.
Yeah, they used the Sioux Indians to communicate over radio where the Germans couldn't understand. Yeah, it was very effective.
Just to finish it, your book is on the Amazon, right?
Yeah, so it's under the title name. I'm under the pen name of Bruce Anthony, so it's not under Cary Grant, but Bruce Anthony. That's just it's a play on my name. I've got four names in my name, and that's the two middle names in reverse.
But it's not a ghostwriter, right? Bruce Anthony it's him.
It's for sure me. So under the author Bruce Anthony, 1940 Precipitated Withdrawal. It's on Amazon, paperback and as an ebook. It's conservatively priced. It's in the $16 US range, which is probably around the 45 reais. For 35 reais.
35, yeah, we saw it, I think, $14, right?
Yeah, 16.
$16, mas 70 reais, para isso é 70 reais. Não? Não chega? Não, mas depois vocês fazem o cálculo, tá?
Yeah. So, anyway, it's available to the Brazilian market. Currently, I've begun translating it to Portuguese, which is quite a protracted process because there's a lot of dialogue in there, and it needs to be getting the right meaning in the transcription, which can be easier said than done. So, hopefully, within the next 6 months, it will come out in Portuguese.
E foi Cary Grant. Just one last question. A New Zealander in Brazil, married to the Brazil woman. The first
happily.
Yeah, happily. Tell me something. The common, the simpler person a simple person that knows Bruce Anthony for the first time for an autograph, what would they see in your eyes?
What they see in my eyes? Appreciation for the Brazilian people. I appreciate how you wear your emotion on your sleeve. You are not afraid to be who you are and how you present yourself to other people. I love that about the Brazilian people. So be yourself, say you like the book, you like the book, you don't like the book, you don't like the book, that's good. We can have a conversation. One thing I love about the Brazilian people is we can have a conversation where we disagree on some matters and be very vocal, very adamant about that. But once we've said our piece, we're the best of friends afterwards. New Zealand, English way of doing things, no? You go there in a conversation with someone, that's the end of your friendship. So,
like
which is wrong. It's wrong.
E foi Cary Grant. Cary, obrigado por teres vindo a Uvas e Personalidades, tá? Vejam os contactos dele, a referência também na Amazon do livro dele, tá? E vamos fazer um pequeno intervalo e voltamos, já já. Ok, então vamos mostrar aqui um pequeno resumo do que foi o evento no passado dia 23, um evento intimista que nós tivemos o privilégio de usufruir do espaço da MigraMaster Network, o distribuidor autorizado da Royal Prestige. Tivemos então a presença de Ryan como Masterchef também a dar suporte na cozinha, na apresentação da rotatividade de 3 pratos para a harmonização no evento intimista que Uvas e Personalidades, juntamente com os parceiros de Além do Salto e também do Norte Digital, nos favoreceram esse espaço, digamos assim, essa ocasião e essa oportunidade de falar com o nosso networking. Como comentei, o convite foi personalizado, tá? Exatamente com o nosso grupo de amigos mais próximo, onde nós apresentámos a sugestão de 3 vinhos, tá? Onde na primeira sugestão, com uma salada, foi um rótulo com as uvas Sanzô, Torrontés e Chardonnay. Posteriormente, um segundo prato de carne com as opções de um Cabernet Sauvignon e toda a sua história, e depois na sequência, para finalizar, um moscatel. Lá está um frisante moscatel com um sorbet muito bem servido no nosso espaço. Tivemos a presença então de ilustres figuras, nossos amigos, que de alguma forma tiveram o privilégio, lá está, tivemos o privilégio de estar com eles, já há muito tempo sem estarmos próximos, o que deu para recordar muitas emoções, muitas situações, muitas ideias e, quiçá, já lá está a programação de um próximo evento onde eles de alguma forma confirmaram a presença para uma repetição de novas experiências com novas uvas e com novos pratos de harmonização. Acompanhem aí algumas imagens das quais nós fizemos com a participação e com a devida autorização de cedência de imagem de todos os presentes. Acompanhem então e desta forma até um próximo evento. Acompanhem lá e vejam lá o que é que de alguma forma nós propusemos a todos aqueles presentes lá no espaço da Royal Prestige. Acompanhem.
Esse evento não é só melhor ser regra, mas tem uma acidez mediana. Muitas vezes tem estágio de carvalho, mas no caso não tem, e tem a torrontesco que muitas vezes é utilizado exatamente para espumantes, só que no caso não tem gás carbónico adicionado. Portanto, como vêem, são 3 uvas que eram consideradas sem grande importância, só começaram a utilizá-las exatamente em cortes diferenciados, únicos, e resultam em rótulos potencialmente ótimos para marketing. Porquê? O torrontesco na Argentina toda a gente o conhece, espumantes, Os chardonnays têm sempre estágio intervalo, ou seja, faz uma uva mais untuosa. Por isso é que nós comemos o salmão, que é um peixe gorduroso, com o chardonnay. Peixe, vinho branco. Há várias questões que nós podemos pôr em prática. E depois a Sansô, exatamente há aquela leveza, por assim dizer.
Por gentileza.
Posso por aqui?
Pode. Tem uma acidez mediana. Tem uma.
1 um. 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 1 Esse Evento não quero só minha certa regra, porque é uma acidez mediana.
Como servir vinho num balde de gelo? Bom, a priori é com gelo. Ok, então é assim, servir um vinho num balde de gelo, a priori estamos a falar na área dos espumantes, rosés ou brancos. Exatamente, o gelo está sempre presente exatamente para cortar aquela questão da acidez que muitas vezes os espumantes e os vinhos brancos têm, exatamente para ser disfarçado com a refrescância, essa acidez no palato. Mas também tem a questão da elegância e como ele é deposto num balde de gelo. Geralmente os espumantes tendo aquela forma de base mais alargada e afunilada e estreita no topo, exatamente é para manter aquela questão de pressão do gás carbónico que tem entre a rolha e o líquido. Exatamente após aberto, vamos manter então que essa estrutura de pressão, mantendo essa garrafa depois de aberta e começar o serviço sempre na vertical, exatamente para não perder aquela pressão contínua do afunilamento do gargalo. E também, posteriormente, aos vinhos brancos e rosés, aí lá está, há a questão de ter aquela pequena inclinação que dá perfeitamente para circular o ar e ir a aerar aquela questão do vinho quando dá abertura. Mas lá está, espumantes na vertical e os brancos e os rosés devidamente abertos no balde de gelo na diagonal. Aparenta uma certa elegância e dá um certo conforto também ao vinho para ser servido. Lá está, tem um amigo com estas dúvidas, inscreva-se no meu canal e vejam que vamos quebrar pequenos tabus destas e outras situações. Inscrevam-se.